Hi everybody and welcome to another shootout video here at Merriam Pianos. In this video we're going to be comparing the Yamaha P515, the flagship of the P series, against Kawai's ES8, their top all-in-one portable digital piano. This is a really exciting matchup for us. We're glad that you are joining us. If it's the first time to the channel, we'd appreciate if you did hit that subscribe. It'll help you stay up to date. We're going to be taking a look at the action. We're going to be hearing the sounds and comparing all of those different patches, talking about the features, and really diving under the hood of both of these magnificent instruments. So thanks for joining us. Let's get started on these right away. So we're here with the P515 and Kawai's ES8, and I'm really very excited to be able to do this review because it's something that's been requested so often. And as I was getting ready to research the video and as I was spending some time with the P515, I realized that these two really are excellent comparisons, or they are good foils against one another, and it's no surprise that it's a frequent matchup in the marketplace when people are looking to spend kind of in and around the 2000 range, or maybe keep it underneath the 2000 range, and they're looking for a premium portable slab digital piano. Because this is pretty much the cream of the crop right here when it comes to those criteria. So we're going to start with sound. I really like starting with sound. I find that is really one of the most critical parts of any digital piano is how it reproduces the tone, the specifics of it. And in shootout videos like this, it's fun because you get side-by-side comparisons instead of just hearing something kind of in a vacuum. So I've got the 515 on my left, the ES8 is on my right. These two, from a spec standpoint, are pretty well matched up. Polyphony, we've got 256 maximum note polyphony with both instruments. In terms of the number of sounds, we've got 40 over here on with the P15 and kind of the mid 30 range, I think 35 or 36 sounds on the ES8. And we're also talking about really high quality sample sets as well. So the Kawai uses both its SK-EX as well as the EX concert grands. It's got an SK5 in there as well. Those are all 88 note individually sampled notes. Really great stuff. There's lots of detail in there. You're not hearing any weird kind of scaling or stretching going on with the samples. And on the Yamaha, they've got their Bosendorfer Imperial sampled, and they've also got the CFX Grand, which the acoustic version of that is really quite a lovely, quite an impressive instrument to play. Let's start with the acoustic piano sounds, because that really is the kind of the primary purpose, I would say, for the majority of players, is how this is going to replicate piano sound, piano experience. And I've got it on the CFX Grand here, and so I'll just play a few seconds so you can get a sense of that, and I'll flip over to the ES8 where we've got it set on the SK Concert Grand, just for a quick impression back to back with those main piano, acoustic piano instruments. Okay, and over to the Kawai. It's actually quite a bit of difference there. The CFX is definitely a brighter sound, just in terms of the timbre of the piano tone. The SK certainly has a far more dark kind of mellow tones in the mid-range, but it still has a very, very clear treble. So definitely two very different sets of samples. I'm just going to play through a few other ones here. This is the Bosendorfer Imperial. So that's the Bosendorfer Imperial. I'm going to move on to the EX Concert Grand on the Kawai. Few liberties taken there before you jump into the comments and tell me all the wrong notes I just played. I know. Anyway. So that's the EX Concert Grand. So we're both still talking about those full 88 note samples. So here's some of the differences I'm hearing with the acoustic pianos. The treble, just generally how the attack on the treble is handled on the Yamaha, whether that's strictly the signal or whether that's something to do with the amplifier, the speakers, but the treble on the Yamaha definitely feels brighter and a little more. It's a little hard to actually describe. Pingy is a word that actually comes to mind a little bit. That C's a good example of what I mean by that. Hearing lots of fundamental there, but I don't hear a lot of complexity or a lot of overtones coming through the speakers on that. Whereas if I go back to the SK here, that's a big difference. So that's the same note. That's the Bosendorfer Imperial. And I should also mention at this point that the sound coming out of both of these is coming to you as direct line outs. This is stereo left and right out of the 1/4 inches out of both of these. We haven't done anything to the sound, so they're both coming in flat, no EQs, no compression. So that's actually a pretty stark difference. Now what I can't tell you is which one you're going to like more. That's entirely subjective. But I think my job here is more to point the differences out, not necessarily to tell you what you are likely to enjoy more. But that is a pretty big difference. So, in terms of your ability to modify that sound on both the Yamaha and the Kawai, there are some cool algorithms that allow you to customize the piano experience. So on the Yamaha, they call this Piano Room, and so you have the ability to modify things like the lid position, and the brightness, and the touch, and the reverb, and the master tuning, aliquot resonance, body resonance, string resonance. So a lot of cool stuff there to play along with. On the Kawai, you also have the same thing. You've got a virtual technician. So that you get to by accessing the menu buttons up and down. And then, of course, once you're in there, you've got touch curve, voicing, damper resonance, damper noise, string resonance, key off effect, fallback noise, hammer delay, top board, decay, minimum touch, temperament, stretch tuning, user key volumes, half pedaling adjustments. So a very similar number of parameters that you have there to make some changes to the piano experience if on either one of them you're not quite happy with how it's behaving or how it's sounding with specific element of the tone or specific element of the response. Let's move on to some other sounds. We're now on the E-piano stuff. This is the stage electric piano. That's the E stage piano, kind of their Rhodes equivalent. I guess you can't actually use the word Rhodes a lot of these times because that's still a trademark. Rhodes is around and they're still making stuff, but I still use the name because I don't think it's, I'm not going to get hit with anything within a YouTube video. There's the DX. And vintage EP, which is always almost exclusively used as a code word for Wurlitzer. There's your soft EP. That's definitely the nicest of them so far. It's got a sort of a nice stereo tremolo effect going here. Yeah, so that's a walkthrough of the E-piano sounds Yamaha has on it. Over on the E-piano side of the ES8, yeah, that's nice. That's kind of got a nice trem effect going on there. And that's their sort of Wurlitzer. It's like the Whitney Houston effect. And then finally back. So a really nice comparison and a pretty good selection of all of your standard EPs on both of those as well. Now what I haven't really dug into, oh no, yep. Yeah, one thing I'll definitely give the Yamaha, the display is nice to be able to navigate. You do have the display on the Kawai as well. It's a little bit smaller, and they make up for it by having really clear button function on the outside, but it's still kind of nice to have a slightly larger display to navigate through. I suspect whenever the update to the ES8 arrives, we might be seeing a slightly different approach to display, but as of now, in, what are we, March 2020, ES8 is still very much a current and vital product in the Kawai lineup. And then just a quick review of the rest of them. We've got the drawbar organ. I always really liked Kawai's organs. And same thing over on the Yamaha. Kind of a similar observation. There's more, almost sounds like there's just more air. There's more complexity around the Kawai sound on the organ stuff. Oh yeah, that sounded quite digital actually. That's not bad. Anyway, and then they all have kind of a nice complement of strings, vibes, and a few other toys under the hood. You got the strings. Really hearing a distinct difference in the approach to the sound, like almost across every category. Anyway, we're going to move on to action. I think that's pretty much a wrap on everything that we're going to quickly talk about in terms of sound. And just as a recap, both 256 note polyphony, both individual note samples on all of your major acoustic piano patches, and very similar number of sounds, and a similar ability to edit those sounds as well, including EQ. One thing I didn't mention on the Kawai, and I will because I think it's actually really cool, they've got an amp simulator on there, which means for all of those extra little nuanced stuff like adding some grit to a Rhodes sound or adding a little bit of extra distortion to an organ, it's there, and it's a completely distinct module outside of the tone itself. So you can get used to using that amp simulator, and it's exactly the same process to apply it to one as it is to the other. Anyway, we're going to throw those up on the screen for you to take an extra close look at, and we're going to keep moving along here with action, Yamaha P515 and the Kawai ES8. Thanks for being with us. Let's dive into the keyboard action. This is really where an instrument's responsiveness, where its true usability comes into play. Because if you've got an action that feels great, it's properly weighted, you like how it feels under your fingers, it's mated well with the tone engine, so it's really responsive, you're going to want to play the piano for hours and hours and hours. On the other hand, if you've got an action which is just annoying you for any reason at all, this becomes a pretty unsatisfying instrument. And it doesn't really matter how good the tone is, it's never going to make up for an action which is kind of mechanically getting in the way of you enjoying the musical instrument. And that goes for any instrument at all. I don't care if you're talking about saxophone, trumpet, or piano. And so we've got the NWX action over here on the Yamaha, and we've got the RH3 action on the Kawai. Now on paper, these two actions seem like they would be a fairly good matchup, but man oh man, these actions do not feel anything like one another, and I was actually very shocked when I got them side by side how differently they behave, how differently they feel, and I'm going to do my best to just describe my perception of those differences to you. Nothing is going to replace you getting in front of the instrument yourself and trying it, but I would say this, they are so different that I would really hesitate to recommend trying either one of these until you are in front of them. And ideally, a setup just like we've got here, side by side, so you can compare and contrast. First difference I notice between the RH3 and the NWX is the weight. When I talk about the weight, I'm just talking about the amount of force it takes to get the key in motion. On an acoustic piano, like an upright, for example, it should take somewhere in the range of 45 to, at the absolute most for an upright, 55 grams to actually put the key in motion. And you'll see some technicians actually put weights on the keys to test that. And if it's outside of that range, there's what they call regulation that needs to be done to that key to bring it into that range. That is over literally millions of pianos that have been built and shipped and used over the course of the last 150 years. It has become fairly well known that that seems to be the right balance of resistance for control, but not so heavy that it's going to fatigue the vast majority of players. On a grand piano, that's slightly higher, maybe about 10% heavier, so about the lightest key that you'll find on a grand piano, maybe around 50, 51, possibly some of the top keys in a very small piano, whereas the very heaviest that you might run into that would really be considered tolerable or normal is going to be possibly up to 60 grams, but even that for a lot of technicians would be sort of above what was acceptable. I haven't measured this out, but I have to guess that the Yamaha P515, in terms of the weight to get this key in motion, is way above that. This feels substantially heavier than what I would be getting in the lower ranges of even a large grand piano. So perhaps in a subsequent video or a subsequent article, I'll actually weight this out and see what the weighting is, but it's not insignificant. And it becomes very, very apparent, especially when I'm pressing down the keys between these two. Like it's not even close. I don't know how heavy this phone is, but it's an iPhone X in kind of a basic faux leather case, whatever you want to call it. But at least it's exactly the same sitting on both pianos. So here's one way to actually validate this so you can see it. I'm just going to put this across 3 keys because that's approximately the width on the Yamaha, and hopefully it'll stay upright. There we go. That's it across 3 keys in the Yamaha. This is it across 3 keys on the Kawai. Easily goes down, doesn't budge the Yamaha. And I can do that across really any of the 3 keys. And this brings me up to the second point, which is the escapement. The Kawai and Yamaha both have escapement, or what's called let-off. Now that is on an acoustic piano where the jack slips off the knuckle and becomes, basically it frees the hammer to swing up on the string and swing back, and it's not really mechanically connected to anything, so it's a nice free travel. They've started simulating this on acoustic pianos, so you sort of feel this lip about 2/3 of the way down. And on the Kawai, it's quite easy to feel that it's there. And it's right where you would expect it to be as well, about 2/3 of the way down. You don't really feel it when it's traveling at full speed, but it's definitely there when you're playing sort of at a lower volume. You feel that lip. I actually struggle on the Yamaha to find that lip anywhere, to the point where I had to actually look at the specs to confirm that this in fact had escapement. And apparently it does have escapement, but I'll be darned if I can actually feel it. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it must be some sort of a design difference between how Kawai's approached this and how Yamaha's approached it. So we've got a major difference in weight. We've got a major difference in how that escapement feels. We've also got a fairly significant difference in the texture of the key. So the white key on the Yamaha is less textured than the white key on the Kawai, and that's an easy thing to tell because of how much glare you get off the light. So the more polished a surface, the more it looks like a mirror. I think that's probably true of any surface, whether you're talking about a key top or a pane of glass or whatever. This is not quite a perfectly polished white top, but it's very, very close. I can actually see about at this angle, we've got a light over there lighting this face, and I can see it very clearly, almost like an image. When I do the same thing here, I can tell that there's a light source over here, but I can't even see a blurry part of the image. Literally, there's so much texture on the key that there's no way it's actually reflecting any sort of image. And I can feel that when I'm playing the key. It's a very nice surface to play over. It's sufficiently grippy, but at the same time it slips when you need it to slip. And the black key has approximately the same surface on it. On the Yamaha, you've got this very big difference between the white key and the black key. You've got almost this polished surface we just talked about on the white key, and the black key has this exaggerated ebony texture on it, which on first play actually seems a little bit more slippery than you would expect. It's an interesting texture. I don't actually consider it to be a good or a bad thing. It's just kind of a difference. And visually, I do sort of like the look of it. It makes you feel like you're in front of an acoustic piano. So I do enjoy that. Underneath the hood, we've got a triple sensor in both cases. So really good, accurate MIDI output from both the P515 and the ES8. But before we move on to other features as well as cabinet options, just to sum up, some really significant differences here in the action. This is not something that you want to gloss over if you're in kind of research stage, because this potentially could be a deal breaker for some people who are looking for a light action or are looking for escapement or anything like that. So do your own research, do your digging. That to me is a bit of a flag. Okay, so we're going to get that up on the screen, and we're going to keep on moving with features and wrap up this comparison. So on to the third section of the review, where we talk about other features and accessories and connectivity options and of course cabinets. These are a fairly similar size in terms of their footprint. They're both slabs, but they're slabs that have the ability to be matched to permanent stands and triple pedal systems. And so they both have that option. The pricing on that is fairly similar, as is the slab actually. I think there's maybe only $100 difference or something between the 515 and the ES8. Out of the box, they both come with really high quality damper pedals, which is great. Both fully weighted, and they're not kind of skating around the floor. That's a really nice thing. We already mentioned that both of these come with 1/4-inch outputs for your audio. It seems as though the line out on the Kawai is not affected by the master volume. It's an independent line level, like a balanced line level out. I think on the Yamaha, the master volume actually does affect the line out. It's just something to be aware of. I'm not sure that one is necessarily better than the other. I guess if you were going to be using this with the local speakers on and feeding a PA where somebody else is mixing that signal, having the line out volume not be affected by your own fader is actually a good thing, because now you can change your local speaker volume and you're not going to screw up some mixing guy who's tearing his hair out going like, why are you changing the volume in the middle of a gig? Because it happens sometimes. Or a YouTube video for that matter. They also have onboard rhythm function, and this is something that the quality of it on both of these is good enough that you may even have some professional playing situations where you would use this. Otherwise, it generally is kind of just a entertainment function where you have some fun playing, you know, accompanying yourself. But they're good enough, as I said, that you could use this on a gig. So I'm just going to start it up on the Yamaha. So you can hear that as soon as I started playing, there's like a bass player that's sitting there. There's quite a few in here to choose from. I think there might be up to 40 or something like that. You've got exactly the same functionality over with the Kawai. They call it the rhythm section. And so you can press the rhythm section button. It gives you the options, sort of all of the controls here. I didn't see the option over on the Yamaha. On the Kawai, you can alternate back and forth between sort of a chorus section and a verse section. And I'll just quickly demonstrate that. So this is called Funk Shuffle 1. You sort of hear the drummer go up onto the bell there. And that's the case with all of the different rhythms in there. You can also control the parts that come on and off. You could hear that there was a guitar in there, bass, drum, so you can turn all of those off so you're just getting drums or just bass, or the bass and guitar. They also both have USB recording functionality. This is great because you have the option of recording wave audio from this straight onto a USB key. I think you can do either wave or MP3 onto the Kawai. And then last but not least is the data interface. The Kawai only has USB, so if you want to be using this with a mobile device or with a computer, that's going to be a hardwired situation. It's easy to do, it's not a big deal, but the ES8 does not have wireless. The Yamaha does have Bluetooth on it, so if you're looking for wireless connection, certainly the Yamaha gives you that. On the Kawai side, it's easy enough to work around with a very, very inexpensive adapter, and you have the same functionality. Both Yamaha and Kawai have apps that will work with this, and of course, if you've got a DAW computer or any kind of app like GarageBand on your mobile device, lots and lots of cool stuff that you can do with either one of these. So that's pretty much a wrap. Really appreciate you checking out our comparison of the Yamaha and the Kawai. I hope you had a chance to hear some of the differences in the tone. Really lots to listen to on both sides, lots to like on both sides, but really big differences in approach. I would say even bigger differences in just the delivery and execution in terms of what they're giving you on the action. And from a functionality standpoint, all the basics: transpose, split, layer, you've got your rhythm, your onboard rhythm, and of course, tons of accessories that are going to help you expand this. One last note, because this is important, the ES8, for people who are doing some research and some shopping on this, and if you like what you've heard in the video or you've read some other reviews, a lot of good things to say, there were a small number of users in the early days of the ES8 where there were some triple sensor issues. And I will take the opportunity to say that there a direct message from the Kawai factory that whole sensor board has been completely redesigned. So any ES8 that you're shopping for right now in 2020 or even in later 2019, you're actually talking about sort of a second version of the ES8. You can almost call it like an ES8B. They don't. That's just me. But it's good to know because I do know that there was a small number of users that had a few issues and they had made their way onto the forums. And so if you're seeing that, it's important to know that that's actually not current information. Really appreciate you stopping by the channel. We hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, please leave us a comment and let us know if you liked the video, if there was something else you think we missed or should have mentioned. You know, everybody's input always makes this channel and all these videos that much more useful for other people checking it out. As well, if it's the first time that you've stopped by the channel, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. We're always making new stuff. We love teaching people about pianos and sharing our opinions. And so this will just help you stay up to date with everything that we're always bringing out. So we'll see you back next time. I'm Stu Harrison. This has been Merriam Pianos. Have a great day.